Um, Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this executive roundtable. My name is Akinola from the DigiConnect team, and we are excited to have you all participating today. Today's session is on the future of work and how to future-proof productivity and security for hybrid workforce. And today's session has been hosted with our partners from Blackberry and Identprotect. Today we will be looking at how the disruption of the last 15 to 18 months have disrupted our idea of work, and we'll be getting to hear from you as well, interacting with us on this session on how the future of work means to you and how your work has evolved and how you see the future shaping out. Before we get into it, I would like to go through some few quick housekeeping. Kindly note that depending on where you are, it will be great to have your cameras on so that we can have that engaging feeling in this virtual environment. Also note that all participants are muted for the purpose of decorum and of course to avoid background noises. Please note as well that today we depend so much on network, just like I mentioned. So, part of our work life is remote and network plays a key role in that. So if you drop out of the network due to any reason, please know that you can join back and the team will be able to admit you back into the call. And last but not the least, as I mentioned, we would like to make this as very interactive as possible as well. So throughout the session, we do have a presentation and a roundtable with a team of experts from Blackberry and Identprotect. We will be sharing some of the trends and evolving landscape as well. Because again, another dimension to the entire disruption is a security dimension as well. So we're looking at all of this element as well as also hearing from some of our speakers that we have on the call as well to see how their work has evolved, how they are managing the disruption and how they are responding as well to the changes in the workforce productivity as well. So to take us further in this session, I would like to invite Sami. Sami Sabri is the principal sales engineer for Blackberry, and Sami will be leading us in the bulk of the first half of the conversation. Hi, Sami, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Thank you. How are you?
Very well.
Let me share my screen and we'll take it from here. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm really happy to be on this call. I've done a number of sessions in the past with Aki, and all of them have been really delightful. I'm very glad that I have a bunch of my closest friends as well as colleagues on this call as well. So please be encouraged to ask questions, to engage with us, and hopefully one day we'll get to speak face to face again. But for now, we do have Zoom. The internet is stable, and I would like to use this chance to walk you through a number of changes that we have seen over the past few years. For a lot of people on this call, including myself, and until a few years ago, I did not know much about Blackberry, and I thought maybe it's a good opportunity to share snapshots of what happened with Blackberry over the past 40 years. A lot of the people on this call and a lot of people in the world in general knows Blackberry as the leading mobile provider, which is true, but that was our legacy. And that was a short period in our long journey of 40 years. If you look at our history, we started by creating a secure point of sale terminal. That was really way before anyone could think about a point of sale in general. We created a very secure point of sale. And then to support that security and support a secure device creation, we had to build our secure network, which until today is pretty much very, very useful for us and to the planet. And it has been a long-standing history of building a secure infrastructure that so many of our customers, partners, so many people around the world until this very moment rely on. Then fast forward, the creation of the smartphones and smart devices, and that was really a game changer to the planet. I believe the reason why we do have multiple different technologies in our hands today is because of BlackBerry. We opened that space of creating a smartphone creating a smart device, a device that you can hold in your hands anywhere and be able to communicate, to send a message, to send an email, to chat, and all of that in a very secure fashion. Because we created the software, we created the operating system, we created the hardware, we were able to create what the world knew later on as mobile device management. And later on, the same has developed to become an enterprise mobility management. And the whole idea is give people the power to use their phones from anywhere and be able to send an email, be able to deliver a business a requirement, be creative from anywhere. You don't need to come to the office to do that. You don't need to be inside the office to do that. But honestly, from anywhere, from a car, from an airplane, from a bus, from a metro station, you could respond to an email, you could send a message, and you could be productive from anywhere. But that had to scale and that had to change. And in the past, maybe in an entity where you had 10,000 employees, maybe I needed 50 people or 100 people to have access to their emails, to their calendars from their phones. But right now, everyone is expecting to have an email on their device. And it's impossible for companies, organizations, governments to hand the handheld device or mobile device to every single employee. So we had to look for another creative way of delivering the same functionality in a very secure fashion to anyone at anywhere with any device. This is where we created the mobile application management part of our portfolio. You know what? Bring your own device, whether it's an Android or an iOS or a Blackberry operating system at that time, and I will take a piece of your mobile or an iPad or a tablet device and put a container on the same and only get visibility, only add my controls and governance on that specific container without touching the rest of your device, your pictures, your phones, your phone records, your calls, your maps, whatever. This can completely be a personal thing outside of the container. And as a company, as an organization, I have no right to touch it or to change anything on that. Fast forward, we kept on adding more and more to that enterprise mobility platform that included everything from device management to application management, content management, collaboration management, and so on and so forth, which formed what the market knows as of today, or what the market calls today, a unified endpoint management, which is really a single console addressing different requirements and different needs and different profiles. But I would like to play the Did You Know game for the next 1 or 2 minutes, because this is going to be a surprise to a lot of people. Did you know that there are millions and millions of cars, for example, on the road today that is using the Blackberry software? I'm sure not so many people know this. We know that as Blackberry employees, but not so many people know that. There's 195 million cars on the roads today using Blackberry software. Did you know that the International Space Station is using Blackberry software? And possibly 7 out of 7 governments in the world are using Blackberry software. All of these very exciting historical moments that not so many people know about is something that is fascinating. Fast forward, a couple of years ago, BlackBerry acquired Cylance, a leading AI company in the cybersecurity space, to add the Cylance AI engine in every different piece of the portfolio. And we believe that everything from an IoT device, a car, a space station, a rocket, should be secure and should rely on artificial intelligence to help you achieve the most with the least human interruption ever needed. We know that there are so many problems, and we know that there are so many areas that every organization should focus on. But in BlackBerry, we have categorized these problems or these concerns into into 4 main categories. And this is going to be the topic of today. And this is where I'm going to invite some of my respectable colleagues in this call to chip in and help me out. But if you look at the so many problems we see in different organizations, regardless of their nature, we can categorize these problems into 4 main different areas. Areas related to content and understanding content and doing content analysis, which is going to help you really understand if something is good or bad, if a file is good or bad, if a device is good or bad, if a network connection is good or bad. if a process is good or bad. This is really around content and content analysis. And then context, what happened before and after a specific thing or a specific event. Why, when, how, where, all of these questions around context, understanding what's happening, understanding what's going on really leads into a better conclusion and a better outcome. And then we look into determining the authority to access data or to access specific device or as access specific service and understand the conduct piece around what's going on in a specific environment. And last but not least, if I have good content analysis and good context analysis and even great conduct analysis without a good way of communicating that message, a good way of communication in general, a secure way of communication, then we're missing a big piece. But for us in BlackBerry, we have all of these things covered. And with that in mind, I do have a very deep friend on this call and a respectable subject matter expert, Mr. Andy Grayson. Mr. Andy came to BlackBerry from a very large and respectable enterprise customer. So he does have the customer experience. He lived and slept and eaten around these problems. Mr. Andy, first of all, thank you very much for joining us on this call early on your morning. From these 4 C's, if you will, which of them do you see applicable in your real life from your customer days, as well as today, now that you're a subject matter expert with BlackBerry, how much can we help or how much do you help your customers within these topics?
Well, first of all, Sami, thank you very much for the introduction and thank you for inviting me on this call. I would have to say that of all 4 of these topics, I think each are equally as important as the other, whether it be content, context, conduct, and communication. We have seen some significant changes over the last, probably, is it fair to say 2 years, but more likely 18 months, with the global pandemic and everybody's work life changing and effectively everybody having to work from home. Now, that presented itself with some unique challenges for organizations. And it's something people have been working towards over the last number of years. Certainly when I was working in the financial sector, there was definitely a trend there that people wanted to work from devices that they had themselves. They didn't want to be tied down to sort of clunkier devices as was seen by as were delivered. They wanted something a bit sexier. And it was a case of not just on phones, on devices, on tablets. That was definitely starting a trend when I was working in a financial organization. And then obviously when I moved to the trend continued, and I could see some of my customers who were looking to be smarter about how they were offering ways of allowing people and employees to work out with the organization. So I think one of the main issues about working out with the organization is how do you provide this? Do you provide a work device where you have it as lockdown and then you allow that work device to access via a VPN? Because, well, there are issues with that because you've got to make sure the work device can attach to people's standard home networks. They can get enough connectivity to allow them to connect to a VPN. I know when I was working for a large bank in Scotland, when they rolled out their latest VPN project, this was the major downfall. It took them about 6 months to iron out all the little kinks and the difficulties in order for people to be able to join these devices to the home network, especially over Wi-Fi rather than just utilizing a standard RJ45 network cable. So there are challenges around what devices you have, but more importantly, if you decide to open up and go from different devices, then you've got to ensure that your data is protected. I mean, that's the most important thing. I suppose when it comes down to it, organizations don't mind where people work from or how they work. Well, some organizations do, some organizations don't. But I suppose the end game is to allow people to work anywhere at any time from any device, and that is definitely the end goal. And I've seen with the solutions that BlackBerry have to offer that we were able to offer them that aspect. So obviously BlackBerry started with the BlackBerry mobile devices and then migrated quickly to the smartphones such as Android and iOS. And alongside that, we have our unique container, which is known as the BlackBerry Dynamic Suite, giving you access to email, behind the firewall services such as internet web pages, and with our partner Wingu, the ability to bring virtual devices into that. Now, we have that solution that allows us to have this and provide this solution securely and as securely to any device. Hence, trying to hit that wonder of allowing somebody to work from anywhere on any device at any time. Sorry, I sound like a sales commercial here with that slogan, but I do think it's quite pertinent. Now, that's great when you give people the ability to work from home using their own device. However, you've now got to think about other security controls. Yes, these people can access the data utilizing their password. Yes, the data might be secure, so it can't be copied out of that container. So we do have robust DLP controls. But what happens when people start doing things they shouldn't? What happens if somebody is behaving unlike they should, such as the conduct and the context? And I suppose this is where we're adding a new dynamic into our product with the persona product. So utilizing Blackberry persona to monitor the user's behavior, monitor their conduct, monitor the content and the context by which the user is working, to provide a second set of security. So not only is the user being able to access the content that they need, but we are actively looking to see if the user is accessing content that they should be accessing. They're behaving in a way that they should be behaving in their conduct, and whether they are checking and looking at the content that they should be. And this is, as you said, when Blackberry and Silence, let's just say merged rather than acquired. When Blackberry merged with Silence back 2 years ago, it was the AI technology that Blackberry was interested in to not only provide BlackBerry already have a really significant solution when it comes down to security and transport, but to provide the next level protection on our software, which goes into the behavioral analysis of the users. Now, we're definitely seeing a move towards this from a lot of companies, and interest in providing security that is based not just on traditional encryption, traditional passwords, smart security, as it were, with the Blackberry persona product set. Now, like I say, there's a lot of interest in this, but certainly from my point of view, when it comes down to it, the benefits of this is it allows the end users to work and work seamlessly. Now, I did mention earlier on passwords. Now, one of the biggest issues that we have when we're working is remembering different passwords to different systems, having multiple passwords sometimes on a day-to-day basis for work results or work applications. Also, the problem with passwords is we can put as much technology and security behind any of our systems, but if those passwords are leaked or cracked, then that provides probably the weakest point of our security. So on that sort of topic, I would like to now hand over to Craig from Identprotect. Now, the reason why I want to hand over to Craig at this point is Identprotect have a unique solution that can assist in not only allowing workers to work remotely, but workers to work anywhere, and can do this in a very, very I would say interesting, but a very fascinating way that removes passwords from the equation to make the solutions not only easier to work for the end user point of view, but also to make them tremendously more secure. On that note, Craig, would you like to take the mantle on and give us a wee overview of Identprotect and how they can help in these situations?
Yeah, absolutely. And good morning, everybody. So a little bit about passwordless technology and getting rid of the passwords. I think everybody has probably seen enough in different publications around data breaches, data hacks. There's been some significant ones in the last 12 months, especially following the trends from the actual pandemic. I guess one of the things which people are not that aware of is that 4/5 of those data breaches are due to a password being compromised at some part of the journey. So that's a significant amount. We've been using passwords on computers for the last 40 to 50 years. And we've never ever really been a way to get away from the password aspect. You need to identify the user, and it seems to be the best way of identifying the user is by asking them something that they only should know. But we know from different attacks that obtaining passwords from people has been quite easy. You see phishing attacks, you see other malicious attacks, password scraping, social engineering attacks, and these are becoming more and more sophisticated, and more people are being coming under the subject of having those taken from them unknowingly. So Idenprotect, one of the things we do is we completely eliminate the password altogether. So at the moment, getting rid of a password is quite difficult because you still need to have something from the user to say they are who they are. And what our technology does is it leverages things like biometrics. It leverages things like the secure chip on mobile devices, which are used for Apple Pay and Google Pay. And it leverages some very complex mathematics to actually, when they're all brought together, actually proves the user is who they say they are. Now, there's a lot of technology out there at the moment who are claiming to be password-free and passwordless. And I just want to spend a couple of minutes just explaining on that, because the world of cybersecurity, as everybody knows, is quite complicated. There's a lot of marketing material out there to sort of describe one thing, but it means another. So passwordless for us is completely not having a password, completely getting rid of it, in its totality. There's a lot of passwordless solutions out there which are probably providing a passwordless experience rather than it being passwordless. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there are technologies out there which hide the password from the user. So the user doesn't think that they've got a password at all. But by doing that, those risks are still there, because a password is based on a pre-shared secret, if you like. It exists in two different places. You, the user, know the password. The computer or the network has to also know the password. And when those two passwords come together, they can be validated and they can say, yes, this is the correct password, you can get access. If passwords are still around, then somewhere else apart from the user, that password has to exist. And they exist on password databases. So these organizations, these security vendors who are saying that they're passwordless and are hiding the password from the user, you're paying good money for a solution which is still exposing you to those risks. And we've seen a few publications recently where some of those passwords have been exposed. Some of the Bitcoin wallets where that's been exposed as well. So Idenprotect is here to obviously to work with Blackberry. You've heard Andy talk about the context and the conduct, around protecting data, around ensuring that data remains safe. The piece of the puzzle that we provide is ensuring that password isn't something that's there, so can't be compromised, can't be taken, and therefore that data remains safe. And this is how these solutions all work together as a family to address these vulnerabilities and prevent organizations from these levels of risk. So on that, I'll hand back to Andy, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Craig. And just from personal experience, I have done a lot of work with Identprotect and some of my customers. And it's quite a unique solution that we as Blackberry / Identprotect can produce. So imagine the scenario. You have basically a containerized solution. So this would run on an iOS device, an Android device, a Windows device, a Mac OS device. And once you're through Blackberry's initial authentication, now, in all aspect, Craig and Identprotect can also help with some authentication in iOS and Android, completely eliminating the need for any passwords. And with a big project that we're doing in Saudi, we are building that functionality into our desktop client as well. But take the scenario, you've got a secure container on any device that you can access any resources on your corporate or your SaaS-based network. And you can do this without having to remember a password. So your end users think, this is great. I don't have to remember anything. I've just authenticated with my face and my fingerprint. In actual fact, we've moved the security from the relatively insecure term for password and moved you'd move the authentication security onto the same level that Blackberry are providing the security for the back-end data. So I didn't go too much into Blackberry's containerization solution, but and I won't because I don't want to bore you too much. But we do have a containerized solution that will run on any device that allows you to effectively put secure container on any device to allow access to backends and corporate resources. Now, this is especially handy if you work in regulated industries like the financial services. Now, at this point, Sami, I know that you, like me, used to work in the financial services. Just on that front, what do you see as the biggest issues for financial services from a UES point of view as opposed to device management, device security? What do you see as the biggest things we need to think about going forward, especially in today's modern world?
Well, I'm really glad you asked, because that brings me back to a lot of memories. Not so many of them are very delightful. You see, the problem with cybersecurity in large organizations, specifically back in the days, is the fact that we had to do a ton of updates every day. Like you wake up in the morning, there's hundreds of megabytes of updates, whether they're like signature updates or heuristic rule updates, IPS updates. And once you do an update, all of a sudden you're required to perform another upgrade so you can patch the system. And that required a lot of bandwidth, that required a lot of operational changes. The biggest challenge with all of that, let's say you are good to go with the updates and upgrades, a $2 kind of malware can eat everything you have done alive. And this was really some of the biggest challenges we've seen. The fact that you have to do constant updates, constant upgrades, disk scans, as well as really eating a lot of resources, whether from a CPU perspective, from a memory perspective, from a disk space perspective. Users did not really like the information security team back then, because we are the people who are stopping them from doing their business. We are the people who are stopping them from doing their work. And while we were trying to secure the business and trying to secure their life and secure their work and help them work more efficiently, we had to pay the price by taking a lot of these bandwidth processes, as well as continuous updates and upgrades. I wish we had at that time something like the Silence AI engine, which we can deploy in servers, be it Mac, Windows, Linux, be it Android, be it iOS, where honestly speaking, we take less than 1% of the CPU, we take less than 70, 80 megs of your RAMs, as well as really taking a very small space of your disks. And because the Blackberry Silence piece of the equation does not require daily updates or upgrades, simply because we're not relying on any static rules or signatures. Instead, we're using AI and machine learning. We don't really need to do a lot of this, as well as we wouldn't expect a lot of technical support calls, end user support calls, because the AI and the automation parts could handle a lot of these problems. But what we really struggled with at that time, and I think still so many people are still struggling with, is really planning for a critical event or really planning for crisis. And I witnessed this firsthand, personally, not just on paper, but personally. Back in the days, I worked in Egypt, and Egypt was going through political changes and political revolutions. We did not have a solid way at that time to communicate right messages and critical messages with our own audience, with our own bankers, with our own employees in different parts in the country. And needless to remind you, we are a very large country, and the bank was, honestly speaking, a very large bank with thousands and thousands of employees across thousands of kilometers. How, as an information security officer / crisis management officer, how do I communicate the right message to the right people using the right channels this was something we didn't have at that time, and it was really something that needed a lot of work on. And on that specific topic, I'm really happy that we have Alan today on this call. Alan is, for me, my go-to person when it comes to crisis management and critical event planning. And Alan, how would you help organizations today, whether they're a bank or a government entity or an oil and gas firm or a three-letter agency or a federal organization, handle crisis management and critical event management? What do we do today from your experience and from your perspective?
Thank you, Samif. Yeah, so like all organizations, and what we've just been talking around is about securing your data, protecting your assets. One of your most important assets is actually your workforce and all the employees that work for your organization. So as a business continuity manager, someone in HR, I have assets. My employees are protected during any sort of critical event. And critical events can be anything from what we've just been talking around. So it could be a cyber attack, malware that can affect your organization. It could be political unrest. It could be a major weather event that can affect your organization. All these types of critical events do affect organizations in different ways. So there is a cost to any organization when one of these events happen. So whether it be an IT outage or an IT issue to a severe weather event. But how do you get that information out to your employees and bring the relevant resources together to work on these types of events? So that's where we have a unique platform in the form of a critical event platform within our Blackberry portfolio of products. And that will allow you to communicate out to your staff on multiple channels. So should you have an event happening maybe in a different country, you need to know who's in that country. The platform will actually allow you to see who is traveling in a foreign country, and then be able to alert out to those staff to let them know what's happening. So if there was some sort of civil unrest happening in a country, then you would want to make them aware of that, and they may have to leave the country in a hurry. So we have the ability to securely communicate over multiple modes to these employees. So that could be over email, it could be over push notifications, it could be SMS, it could be phone calls, as well as other modes as well internally into your organization, such as IP phones, digital displays, etc. So to get that message across, you need to let people know what's happening, and communication is a strong point here. So in the UK, we've had a few events that have happened over the past couple of years where communication has been said to be very siloed across the different services that were involved. So this was particularly within government, and they were very siloed communication. So this product has been deployed extensively in some of our government agencies, and it's used to bridge the gap between those different organizations, allowing you to have that communication across from one organization to another during a major incident and allow that full communication and collaboration. One important part of this communication is the ability to respond back. So it's all well and good sending a communication out to your staff, excuse me, and telling them something, but you might need to know if they're safe or if they've been affected by one of these incidents. So it's actually a two-way communication. So when I send out a message saying major weather event happening, please take shelter, do not go outside, I can have a response back saying, yes, I've acknowledged that, I'm fine. No, I need assistance, I'm caught out in the weather event or something like that. So you have this way of getting information back from your staff and allowing the organization and senior leaders to make critical business decisions based on the information you're getting from your employees. And we've seen over the past 18 months with COVID, the workforce has now been split up across the globe. They're not all in offices. They could be working remotely. They could be working in different locations. And having the ability to communicate out and know where staff are should something happen, and especially with the increase of cyber attacks we've seen during COVID. So potentially your IT could be weakened because you've got people maybe using unsecured devices to do their office jobs and their roles, you still need to be able to communicate out to these employees to let them know should something be compromised. And this allows you to communicate out of bounds. So you're not communicating maybe over your corporate email because maybe that's compromised. You're able to send an SMS, for example. So they're all examples of how a critical event platform like we have here at Blackberry can communicate out during any sort of times of crisis.
Excellent. And before we wrap up the first half of our discussion and half our panel discussion today, I have a question for you, Alan, once again. A critical event management software, a crisis management software, fundamentally is obviously something we needed for a very long time, but how flexible and how integratable is the software we offer today? Because if we're going to communicate over phones and channels and SMSs, and this is all good and handy, but what if I, as you mentioned, for example, throwing in a phone call or automating a ticket opening, or can I, for example, instead of just alerting the end user, can I alert a police department or a fire department or an ambulance, if that makes sense? Yep. How easy it is to speak to different people outside my organization using this platform?
Exactly, really good question, Samaf. So it is very easy to communicate out across different platforms. So the same way as I could invite someone on LinkedIn, I go and look them up and say, I want to communicate with you. Will you accept it? You can do the same pretty much on our platform. So you can either know a contact in another organization, invite that organization to receive your critical alerts, and then you have that two-way secure communication between those two organizations. We also make integration with existing enterprise tools really easy. So if you're using platforms for IT ticket and IT incident management, like things like ServiceNow, we can just integrate with that. So let's just say your email environment went down and everyone's ringing the help desk saying, oh, I can't get onto my email. And that's made worse, especially when you've got remote workers, because they're not in the office, so they can't talk to their colleagues and find out that there's actually an issue. So you may have lots of people, especially if you're a large organization, ringing your help desk, your service desk, saying email's not working. So what you can actually do directly from within the ServiceNow console, for example, is send a communication out of bounds because your email's down. So you might send it as a push notification or an SMS to all your employees to say, we know Microsoft Exchange is down. We're working on it. It should be resolved within the next hour, for example. So you can see there, we've got integrations into things like ServiceNow. We've got a really good integration with Microsoft Teams. So we've seen over the past 2 years, especially with remote working, lots of users are collaborating over Microsoft Teams. And Teams isn't just a conference suite like we're on here with Zoom. It does allow full collaboration, so you can share documents, work on documents together. And what we are finding is business continuity managers who are now remotely working, they weren't all sat in the office together and had that ability to properly collaborate in person during a crisis. They were using Teams to do that collaboration. So we actually have an application that sits within Microsoft Teams. It's available in the Teams App Store and allows them to send out these mass communications to their employees during a crisis from directly within the Teams interface. So you're not having to leave your Teams collaboration environment to do any of that communication out. So really good integrations with existing enterprise applications. You don't have to change any of your existing workflows that you may be doing. So you're not changing how your service desk works to do any of this. They're still using their existing product tools, but we've got integrations into those to allow that communication out.
Awesome, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending the first half of our session today. We are more than happy to answer your questions. We do have a couple of respectable guests who will lead in the next half of the session, but me and my other colleagues will be on the call. If you have a question, please drop it in the chat box. And if there's anything we can help you with in meantime, please do not hesitate to ask any of us. Thank you, and Aki is back to you.
Thank you very much, Sami, and thanks for helping to facilitate that first round of discussion. And thanks to Andy, and thanks to Craig as well as Alan as well to, bring in all of those perspectives together. I think it's very fascinating looking at it from the 4 C's, as you mentioned. We will be transitioning to a quick discussion with some of our panelists. But before that, I just have 2 quick polls. One is, something that I think, for us on the call, I think it will be interesting to see what is happening. We're talking about work from home and work from work or hybrid and all of that. It will be interesting to see for us on the call, which one applies to you, just to get some, insight. And what do you think about in terms of the future of work from your perspective? Do you think it will be more work from home, or hybrid, and the likes? And also, again, are you still working from home right now? Are you back in the office? It will be interesting to see that. And I will leave this for a couple more seconds, and then I will share the results with everyone to see. Thanks for participating in the poll. And I think it's a very important discussion to have at this point as we hopefully move into a post-pandemic era. So I've got a couple more participation. I see a lot of people believe the future is hybrid. Okay, interesting. More people are back in the office. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to just end the poll now and then just share some of the results that we have. So we've got, I hope you can see the result. So it's a lot of, hybrid. Everybody thinks, most people think the future is hybrid. And of course, most people are back in the office, which is great. I think it's going to be a mix of both, but again, we'll see how it shapes out. The second poll that we have is a poll that is, checking in terms of your requirement going forward from this session. Any of the topics you would like to receive more information on from the team of experts from Blackberry as on the call, please feel free to, punch in which option that you think is relevant for you, that is of interest as we take this forward. And while we're doing that, I would like to, introduce our guest panelists today, who will also be adding their voice to the discussion as well. I would like to welcome Yusuf Radi. Yusuf is the manager server software support for Saudi Arabian Airline. And of course, we have also on the call Mohammad Shalan, head of technology at Aqarat real estate development. Hi, Mohammad. Hi, Yusuf. Can you hear me both?
Yes. Actually, if I start, the future of work is really changing too much these days. And what's going on actually is that, for example, I'm working for a major master developer here in Saudi Arabia. And before this, actually, what happens in the past 2 years, actually, there was like, it was real estate it was immune to a lot of changes. But currently, with these all changes happening, either at the government sector, where we have a lot of portals, a lot of activities going on, as well, in one day, actually, we have to go and work from home. And this is happening too much, actually, for us, happening from home, from everywhere. And this may have made a kind of mindset change. So we have a lot of people now accepting to work remotely and to work from different locations. So what I say actually today is that we have the workforce itself today is changing, because we have some highly skilled contractors or gig workers who are working from different locations, even from different countries, at certain activities, because sometimes you need certain skills that's not available today in your organization, and it will not be wise actually to join just permanent employees for certain tasks that can be done remotely. So this is one challenge actually, how we contract with these guys, as well, how we can manage this kind of people and this kind of stuff. Additionally, the work itself has been changed. Instead of the work that we have our team going to multiple, for example, government offices and something like this, doing activities. Today, it's totally changing, because the government have done a major transformation, and we see a lot of activities that's done remotely. So we have to secure actually, but some of these activities actually is very risky, because, for example, you can now transfer the ownership of a big land or doing something like this just in a click on your mobile or a click on your desktop. So for this, actually, we have to protect the identity of people who are working and making these kind of activities. And sometimes also we need to protect the process itself, because okay, you have some authorities and you are a trusted guy, but officially, sometimes there's a kind of workflows that should be done before doing this kind of things. And for also the workplace itself, and it's changing too much. Instead of doing it in a home or in office, usually with a lot of your employees and your managers around you, then you are changing the location that you are doing this kind of high transactions actually, or high effective transactions, that there is a lot of changes. So for this actually, yes, we are thinking how to have a kind of additional security of the transactions that's done by people, because they are in different locations, different ways as well. Sometimes it's high effect transactions. So we need to protect the identity of people who are doing this as well, to have a kind of easy collaboration. So this is the challenge that we are trying to face out, and we are trying to find different locations or different situations, different tools to help us in this environment. Because as I told, actually, we are the real estate master developer. All of a sudden, we have been from people who are not very happy to utilize computer or technology, to the people who are relying too much on technology, because the transformation done by government, as well the mindset done, as well the pandemic, everything. So this is actually what we are trying to do, and what we are trying to achieve since the last 2 years, actually. Where
thank you very much, Mohammed, for that. And I think it's important. You did touch on some of the important things. I'm going to come to Yusuf now. I mean, Yusuf, you work in a large organization, just like Sami and the team were talking about that. You know, in some cases, it's a very large organization, and it would be interesting to hear some of your experience during the last 18 months, how you assess the impact of the pandemic on the workforce, how your team, I mean, your background also in terms of, the network, relationship as well, in terms of how, you're able to support the team, because just like Mohammed mentioned, there was definitely a shift towards remote working. Everybody had to be at home for a long time, and business need to continue. Of course, for airline, maybe a little bit down, there were some activities going on. But again, the element of the fact that some people are not even really advanced when it comes to technology and all of that. It will be interesting to hear your experience in terms of the impact and how you guys were able to manage some of these disruptions. Yusuf?
Thank you so much. And special thanks to Sameh. I like how Blackberry categorized the context, connection, communication, and this main category. The problem that the investment in security and infrastructure and network in the last 20, 30 years, it was on the on-prem, that the employee is in the office inside network, the servers, the application inside the network. So the enterprise services for security and network and monitoring, it is covering the inside IT, inside network, inside data center, multiple layer from physical to software to network to alert to monitor to whatever. It's all inside. And we usually allow only some secure application that design as a SaaS or as a application interface, or with the limited information shared, we allow it for the external user. But during the pandemic, this is one of the challenge that we face, that we have to shift the whole work from work inside to work from home, or work remotely, or work from car, work outside the organization, from any device, work from anywhere, from any device at any time. So this is a challenge that we cannot say it as an IT. I cannot say that after all this investment, I cannot support this model. No. And we face a really challenging situation that we had to work with multiple vendors, with our developer, to enable the IT to provision its services to outside organizations. And I remember that days, we are lucky because I'm working in a huge IT department, and we have all security layers that require to support such a business model. But I work with the vendors, with the developer, to somehow we redesign the application to respect this business model from security perspective. to allow the right access for the right people with the right information shared, respect to the encryption and security layers, and also with the monitoring that we need, because you cannot protect what you cannot see. So it's a huge effort, but work from home, I think it will continue, and I see a lot of report that especially for most experienced employee, they like to work from home, and they don't need to be in the office. They like to work from their home country, from their remote offices. But I think still most of the junior employee, they like to work from the office. So the hybrid model, I think it will continue forever.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yusuf. Very important point, and thanks for sharing some of your experience as well. And I think also from what Sami and the team also shared, one part of the seed that really got to me was the communication aspect. And I think the way Alan put it together, not just only for a pandemic, for any crisis or any situation, communication element is very key in terms of how you achieve all of that communication with the team, with the workforce, and all of that. And coming to my second question, because of our time, to Mohammad, in terms of the future, I know you mentioned a little bit about it, but if you can elaborate more from where you see it and what you see as the future in terms of how do we future-proof productivity and security for an hybrid workforce of the future, as we envision a future whereby there will definitely continue to be some people that work from home and some will be working from office. How do we match the productivity and the security together? And I will come to Yusuf and also come to Sami to get some thoughts in that aspect. Mohammad, we start with you.
Yes, actually, from my side, actually, I think it's not only we need to talk about employees working from home, employees working from office, but also we need to talk about the gig workers. Gig workers are workers who are contracted for certain activities to do it from from different organizations or from overseas or something like this. Because this is coming today as a very important part of your workforce. And a lot of activities is done really by these kind of consultants or specified experts who are doing certain tasks for you, and then they quit for certain period of time. So when we are talking about this, actually, we have to find new tools today, actually, to measure, first of all, to collaborate with these people in a secure manner, and this is very important, as well to move, actually, what we are talking from business operation or normal business operation into business co-creation. So for example, these experts outside or these gig workers will create certain thing for you, and it will be part of task force for certain activities. So we have to control this kind of people, and also we need to put a kind of KPIs, even in terms of the time they spend on the project, everything they do for this project. So this is very important. As well, when we are talking also we are talking about the cost of this kind of collaboration, this kind of communication, how we communicate with them and how we contract with them, how we put a contract with someone who is working remotely for your force, and how we allocate his time, how we measure his deliverables. So all these kind of issues actually is coming today to our environment, and we need to take care about them, as well for the security issues, how they will connect to your network, how they'll do this work. So this is very important topic that we are today thinking and moving into this direction as well.
Thank you very much, Mohammad. Very, very important point. I think visibility is very important, working with, third parties as well, part of the workforce, but ad hoc and all of that. Very important. Yusuf, what are your thoughts on how we can future-proof productivity and security in this hybrid workforce of the future?
As my colleague said, Mr. Mohammed, that it is not only for your employee. It's also for contractor, third-party employee, maybe some part-time, maybe one time, maybe guest, maybe all type of business demand. It's open now, so the security should enable all these type of work. And yes, we have. There is already some technologies for security to protect such scenarios. As I said, to see whatever belong to you. So maybe when usually when we start work from home, the main issue was the leakage, the data leakage. After I open my system and use personal device or mobile device, desktop, laptop, working from non-secure network, at least I should monitor my information. So I think the data leakage here, the technology, it was one of the options that you should enable it someday. But after work from home, it's a mandatory. You have to have it, or your information it will be shared with everyone, even if he is not authorized to saw it. Okay. So yes.
Thank you, Yusuf. Sami, I mean, these are very important point that Yusuf and Mohammad has raised, and I think also if you look at it from some of the challenges and looking at the future proofing of productivity and workforce, I want to check with you in terms of some of the customers you guys work with. How are these some of the challenges that you've also heard, and how have you been able to, or how can BlackBerry, for example, help protect that ecosystem, this new model that is evolving into the future of work?
Actually, these are very well positioned challenges, and we have been seeing them with a lot of prospects in the past. I don't think our customers are still facing those challenges, because we do help them specifically address most of these problems. And as my brother Andy mentioned earlier, our mission is to give the people a secure way of working from anywhere, from any device, anytime, regardless of your location, regardless of what's going on. If you're using your daughter's laptop, or if you're using your wife's iPad, you're just really using a foreign device, I can give you a secure way of communication, a secure way of collaboration, whether through a number of different tools and technologies, which we will be more than happy to share with you and to share with whoever, any of our respectable attendees on this list, to ask about any time. But we have a number of ways to give people secure access from home without depending on VPNs. You know what, you're using a foreign device, and as Mr. Yusuf mentioned, all of a sudden you need to use a laptop that is not yours, or a desktop that is not yours. What do I do about the data that I have? Okay, today I'm working from home or working from anywhere using a public machine, but I'm downloading sensitive information, or I want to upload sensitive information. How do I do this? So we have multiple technologies that we offer as of today out of the box that people can use from day one, and they're really simple to use. You have in the likes of opening up a browser, adding your credentials, encrypted communication without relying on any VPN or any special connectivity that you need to install on a machine. And all of a sudden you have your entire company in front of your own eyes, with virtual machines, with connectors to your Office 365, with your other systems. Upload and download to that secure encrypted container. And once you click on close, everything is gone. So nothing is shared from the personal device or the host into the container, and nothing leaves the container. That's just one of the examples we have been helping people with our digital workplace. The idea is we should help you get a secure communication, secure container, a secure design of a solution to work from anywhere using any device without compromising your experience, and obviously without compromising the confidentiality of your environment.
Thank you very much, Sami. Perhaps because of our time, I don't know, we would like to take one or two questions from the audience. Please feel free to put it in the chat box, or if you can, use the raise your hand feature, we're happy to unmute you. While we see if we can get any feedback from the audience. Sami, you want to take any last takeaway from the team? Maybe you can go around for like a minute takeaway, like closing remark.
Actually, if I can bring in my brother Andy to the call, because he had a lot of customers in the past, of which some of them had an issue with contractors, and how to secure communication with contractors and how to enable contractors work with our company. Andy, if you can unmute yourself and shed some light on this piece, will be awesome. I think you want to unmute, but you can't. So Aki, do you know if we can?
Can you hear me, Sammy? Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you again. Thank you again for that entry there. Something I did hear earlier on was the use of contractors. Now, I have a story / anecdote. Before I joined Blackberry, I was working for a small company called ECS in Scotland, and I was contracted to one of the large banks in the UK. I can't name the name of that bank, but it took them 3 weeks in order for me to get a laptop. And for those 3 weeks, they were paying for me. And I'm not going to say what I was being billed out by a day, but needless to say, I don't have a bank account with that bank. And if I did have a bank account with that bank, I wouldn't have a bank account anymore because of the way they waste money. So where our solution comes in and where it's perfect for contractors is because it can go on any device. It can be set up in under 5 to 10 minutes. And as Sammy said earlier, it is a containerized solution that runs on any Windows, any Mac device. It can access all your resources behind the firewall and anything virtual as well. So it's ideal for people who want to work from home, but more importantly, it's ideal for contractors because literally they can come in through, you can come through your door, you can give them an activation code from downloading a small bit of software, they can activate and be up and running in under 5 to 10 minutes. Now that's a tremendous bonus. I know from being on the coalface, that's a tremendous bonus in enabling your workforce. So enabling your current workforce, enabling contractors to come in quickly, because let's be honest, who wants to pay a contractor to sit around not being able to do any work? No, when you start to want to pay somebody, you want to get somebody in there straight away. And that's one of the reasons why I have been definitely talking a lot about this by Blackberry Digital Workplace Solution, specifically to enable people to work quickly and enable people to work quickly on any device. It's basically the evolution of IT and the evolution of thinking. We no longer need to wait for cumbersome processes in order to deliver dedicated machines to dedicated people. This is all about moving forward with freedom and having, again, the freedom to work from anywhere, any device, anytime. Sorry, again, I sound like an advert here, but it is that freedom and that freedom of mindset. So once you put that freedom together with the security and the solutions offered by Blackberry and including the solution offered by Identprotect to make it easier and more secure for you to access these systems, and then integrate it with what we can provide with our communication platform as well. We do have a great offering that allows you to check a great many boxes. Some of these boxes that weren't present even 2 years ago. We're adapting to the adapting workforce, to the adapting changing situation. And yeah, at that point, Sammy, I've talked enough again. I'll hand back to yourself if I can.
That's priceless. Thank you very much. Aki, if there's anything we can add, if you want us to answer any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I don't think we have any questions now on the box, but again, please note that you can connect directly with the Blackberry team post-event. Also, if you would like to have a copy of the recording for you to listen in again, we'll be happy to share with you as well. And, I think if I can just take, a final moment to just take a final statement from Mohammad and Yusuf. What will be your last takeaway, Mohammad? A few seconds.
Yeah, I think yes, the world is changing and we should cope with as well. We should have more visibility. And I think this is something that we need to know how we can get more visibility into our contractors and our employees who are working remotely. It's very important to share.
Thank you very much, Mohammad. Yusuf?
Yeah, just one comment regarding Andy working free. Working free, very challenging. So like some business employee, they tell me I can work in my personal home PC using my USB, receiving any email without any restriction. Of course, this is not secure because most of security control on the business corporate device, it's there to secure the business. But this is the expectation. This is what we expect from IT to be enabler and we are trying our best to smooth the user experience in a secure way. So this is the challenge that we are facing, and it's changing after work from home. Maybe it's jumping 10 years or 20 years ahead. So we are trying our best to meet this expectation.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. If I can jump to Alan, any final word, Alan?
Nothing in particular, but yeah, so as I said earlier, every organization should have some sort of critical event platform in place. Who do you know in your building? So if you're talking around what you've just been talking around contractors and things like that, they can actually self-register so you know where they are, if they're on your organization, in your premises or anything like that. So if there was some sort of incident, a fire, an evacuation, something like that, you would know who was in that building and who would be able to evacuate out.
Thank you very much, Alan. Craig?
Yes, it's been really interesting session, especially hearing about some real industry experience over the last 12 to 18 months. I guess some of the things I've picked out on, quite right, Mohammad is mentioning that hybrid is here to stay. It is, without a doubt. We're seeing that right across from North America, Europe, and the Middle East. And what we've got to remember is, security is a business enabler. It's not meant to be a blocker. So, the business needs to be able to conduct business. It's simple economics. Businesses are here to generate cash, to make profits, to pay people, to deliver services. So, security being seen as a blocker is certainly not going to help any of us in the cybersecurity industry. So, understanding those risks, understanding what those risks mean, understanding the controls to prevent those risks from taking place is very, very essential. And especially in Saudi Arabia at the moment, you've got guidelines like the NCA, who are looking at ways of introducing new regulation to protect things like email access, web application access, enforcing the use of MFA, which obviously we're involved in a lot of projects in Saudi Arabia at the moment for that very thing. So, my takeaway from this, having spent, nearly 25 years in the cybersecurity industry, is, although things are going into hybrid, don't be scared of it. Understand the risks, understand what the impacts of those risks could be, and identify the correct controls, and use subject matter experts like Blackberry, like Identprotect, to help you, get those controls in place to prevent those risks actually materializing.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. And it's been a very interesting, session, different angles, different perspective. One thing that we can all agree on is that since the pandemic, with the movement and the shift towards remote, our security teams have had a very big task on their head, one layer of security requirement, because they now have to worry about so many things, not just within the prem, but again, now out of their control, and they can only depend on the right tools to enable them to be able to keep control, just like Yusuf said, as well as everyone on the call. We look forward to more opportunities to have you also have this conversation. At this point, we would like to bring it to a close. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to all our attendees for taking the time to stay up to this time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.